And we're on.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Inside Movies Galore. I am one of your hosts, but tonight we are continuing uh, our buddy Kroll's journey here inside his film adaptive mind and seeing what he's subjected us to this week. So why don't we give it over to SeptumSin, who will give us a rundown and a short of what movie we are about to discuss.
So
Take it away.
we're going to be discussing the 1989 film by director Arthur Hiller, See No Evil, Hear No Evil, with Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder. The IMDb on this says that, as far as description, Dave is deaf, Wally is blind. They witness a murder, but it was Dave who was looking at her and Wally who was listening. I think that's a decent enough base summary for this. So why don't we go ahead into first impressions? So why don't we start with Kroll, because this was your pick. Was this your first time seeing this movie?
No. I saw it in '89 when it came out. I don't think I saw it at the theaters, but I'm pretty sure I saw it around the time it came out. Absolutely loved it. Laughed my butt off the whole time. Just really funny movie. I mean, these two are great together. They've done many movies together. I'm not sure exactly how many, but lots of movies together. I've seen them, most of them, and individually they're both very funny together. They're even funnier. They work off each other. Great chemistry, and this movie is just really hilarious. It's got some great scenes and everything kooky that could go wrong does, and it's just one crazy thing after another between these two. Even before they actually officially meet, some craziness ensues. We'll get into that in a few, but it's a great movie, absolutely hilarious, and it's a classic. If you haven't seen it, check it out.
All right. So let's see here. I'll go ahead to the end there. And Forrest, is this your first time seeing this movie?
This is my So growing up, this is a movie that I would catch while on TV, just while flipping through the channels. But this was actually my first time watching it in its entirety. Like, I'd seen bits and pieces of it over the years, but this is my first time watching it in its entirety. And I think it was interesting. For me, it was. I love Gene. I'm not really familiar with a lot of what Gene Wilder did after the 70s. So basically, everything he did with Mel Brooks. So basically, Willy Wonka and everything he did with Mel Brooks. And also Richard Pryor. I mean, I'm probably more familiar with him as a stand-up comic than I do as an actor. Although I do think he and Wilder were a better pairing than him and Superman. But yeah, this is definitely a movie that no way in hell would ever get greenlit today. And I was reading that apparently Gene Wilder apparently, from what I'm reading about the making of this movie, Gene Wilder found the original script very ableist.
Yeah.
And requested and was given they let him rewrite the script to be a little less mean spirited, but I still think but yeah, I think the execution on this wasn't really well done. It just wasn't very, for me, it didn't really land that well. I know they've got a few other movies, Stir Crazy, and I think a movie called Another You, but I never, but this is actually my first time watching like they're watching them together in a movie, And I think that I think the two of them are a great comedic duo. But the premise of this movie is, to me, it didn't land. It just did not land.
Okay.
Or at least it didn't land in the execution. It didn't land in the execution. I did, however, find some of the supporting cast to be pretty interesting, like Kevin Spacey in one of his early roles. And then there was that scene. A scene where Gene Wilder gets into a fight at a restaurant with the dad from The Adventures of Pete and Pete. Hardy Rawls, that's the actor's name. And also seeing Lauren Tom, an actress that I'm familiar with, and I'm an actress that I'm familiar with in a lot of her early work, doing voice, because she does a lot of voice acting for cartoons like King of the Hill and Batman. She also has a supporting role in Bad Santa, so it was also pretty interesting to see her in an early role, albeit a very small one. I think she was a hotel clerk. But yeah, I think overall, I think this was a good, Pryor and Wilder are great together. They got they have great chemistry. But I just did not. But yeah, this movie just did not really land. And I think a lot of supporting cast. It was interesting to see them in a lot of them in early roles. But yeah, it just did not land. It didn't really land for me. I just didn't think it was that fun. I guess what's the word?
Not comical enough.
Yeah, it wasn't comical. It wasn't comical enough for me.
All right. Well, I guess let's move on to Tammy. Was this your first time seeing this film?
I don't think so, but it's been a long time. My dad really likes Gene Wilder, so I'm pretty sure I watched it with him a long time ago. Some parts looked familiar, so excuse me. I did enjoy it because I like the comedy between the two of them. I know that they after they did their first film together, which was Silver Streak, that's when they collaborated for, I guess it was supposed to be 3 other films, and I guess this was one of them.
Yep.
And I think that they do play off of each other really well. Yeah, it wasn't totally that comical that you might think with the two of them together, but it was fun. So that's, I guess, all I can say about it.
All right. Let's see here. So, Jake, was this your first time seeing this film?
Oh, definitely not. This one is kind of interesting for me because I actually have a lot of nostalgia for the film. It was easily, if I'm not mistaken, and I could well be mistaken, but it was easily, I think, the first of the 4 Pryor and Wilder collaborations that I saw. And I saw it a long time ago. I saw it, this came out in 89. It probably was not more than 3 or 4 years old when I saw it the first time. Although I'm willing to wager that I never saw the uncensored version until later. I probably saw it on television a couple of times. I could be wrong about that, but that seems likely. It was also, I think this one and Brewster's Millions were my main introduction to Richard Pryor back in the day. And for Wilder, of course, Young Frankenstein, and I'd probably seen Blazing Saddles somewhere along the way. Actually did not see Willy Wonka until much later. So this was one of my first introductions to both of them. Probably was my introduction to Kevin Spacey, although I didn't realize it at the time. And it was, given all of that, given the premise, given the nostalgia that it had built up over the years, and since then I've seen each one of the others once. I've seen Silver Streak once and I loved it, and I saw Stir Crazy once and I loved it, and I saw Another You once and I was like, it's pretty good. But I think I had probably seen this one again within the last 15 years or so, probably. But it's been a while. It's been a long while. And since then, we've had this sort of reevaluation of the 80s kind of were a throw everything at the wall and see what sticks time for comedy. And so that means that some of the humor has not aged as well as some of the rest of it. And then there's the whole Kevin Spacey thing. This is the second movie after Baby Driver that I've seen since his fall from grace. And it almost makes it better to watch his villain roles now.
Yeah.
It's almost better to watch it when he's playing a smarmy asshole. Especially because apparently that cyst on his face was real and he had it taken care of after the film. And so it's kind of like, that he had to deal with that the whole time. It's like, okay. So there's elements of the film that have aged less gracefully than others. But overall, I still think it's a funny movie. Enough of the jokes land for me. Enough of them have aged well. Again, some of that may be nostalgia, but I think overall, I still enjoy this movie, and I'm still. It was fun to revisit it, and it'd be interesting to talk about.
Oh yeah, I think nostalgia
Yeah.
definitely helps.
Yeah.
So how about you, Dave? Is this your first time seeing this film?
No. I had actually been turned on to this film by Tammy, believe it or not, because she forgets that we had actually watched it when I actually picked up the set. But that being said, I had seen bits and pieces of the film long before this, not knowing how to connect the images with the movie. And I guess this would happen to be like my second to possibly third time watching the film in its entirety. So, I like Gene Wilder as an actor. I like Richard Pryor and his comedy. And for some reason, the fact that Richard Pryor plays the blind man and Gene Wilder plays the deaf man, they just pull it off. I mean, when they're together, it may be abrupt humor, abrupt. I would say abrupt because they were trying to make comedy at a time when comedy was running thin and on thin ice at one point in time. So, but I get a kick out of the characters in here. Kevin Spacey, I know about his fall from grace, and it doesn't bother me watching him in previous things. This was obviously at a time when he was still in Hollywood's grace period. And
A-list yet.
Well, this was when no one knew who the hell he was.
Yeah, he wasn't
Wasn't this even? This was even before the incident, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
So
I mean, he
one
didn't really
could
become a
say, yeah.
I mean, I don't think he even became he really even became an A-lister until The Usual Suspects.
Yeah.
And that was several years
Apparently,
later.
I think he and John Severance co-starred on a show, and that's how they got the parts working together. And I know he was in Heartburn, so he wasn't brand new, but, wasn't a star.
But, and I do get a kick out of how There's always the shower scene in this movie, so I do get a kick out of that going forward here. But that being said, I relatively enjoy the movie. There are a few racy parts, but that don't age well. But I do think in the long run, it is a returnable movie where I can return to it in the future. So, yeah, it does have that rewatchable factor. So,
All right. Well, I would like to say before I get into it, I would say that there is no movie that ages well at the end of the day. If you subject it to the lens of current time, even current films, if you subject it to that lens, it doesn't hold up because that idea of, because again, it's when you look to make sure that you find something, when you look with the purpose of finding something to be offensive, you will find something that will be offensive. Not saying that this is, this was, perfect for any time necessarily, but just to say, I don't think any film can hold up to today's lens.
It would take a heartless bastard to be offended by The Princess Bride.
I'm sure that I could find some people that would tell you that it's offensive.
Yeah, although now that Red Savage is in the crossover.
Oh shit! Yeah, you're right. Dang it!
Oh, he is. Oh, and they're making fun of giants because they rhyme. I just throwing that out there. I don't really believe that crap.
Actually, one could theoretically say that by having Andre the Giant play a giant, you were being ableist. By making fun of his giantism. Yeah. Even though he agreed to do it. It's just...
Well, at least they didn't have Wallace Shawn playing a giant. I mean...
No, I could definitely think of a couple of ableist issues with that particular movie, but I go on. That's suffice to say, I have a special place in my heart for this film. Back in the day, I'd visit my grandparents' house, and I would watch films in what is now my movie room. So I guess I was watching films even back then when I was younger. And I ended up seeing this because my father would tape stuff off of HBO that my grandfather would like to see, or that he thought my grandfather would like to see, which was usually a miss, but sometimes occasionally a hit. And this was one of the ones that he recorded. This was the first time I'd seen Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor together. May have even been the first time I've seen Gene Wilder, because I want to say it might have been one of my first films seeing him. And Richard, I know it was my first seeing Richard Pryor, because I was way too young for his stand-up at that time. Just a little.
I don't. Somehow, I still get the feeling you probably saw his stand-up at an early age.
Well, I did see Eddie Murphy Raw at an early age when it came out.
I would say my dad took my mom to see Sam Kinison when she was pregnant with me.
Wow. Now, my mother would not have allowed me to see Richard Pryor's stand-up.
Damn, Forrest, you just made me feel freaking old as hell.
So, with See No Evil, Hear No Evil, I would watch this on the regular. There were two films. This one, and later on, for some reason, I got into Beethoven, even though I was a bit older. It was like in my younger teens when Beethoven was out. But I would watch it with some of the younger people up here, so I would get into watching that a little bit. So those two movies I always group together in my head, and because they're very similar, you see.
Oh yeah.
But to me, I like all of the movies. I have not seen Silver Streak in many years. I've even forgotten it because I have a triple feature with this one, Stir Crazy, and Another You. And those are the ones I saw the most. I didn't see Silver Streak until much later. and I've only seen it once. I really need to get it in my collection because they are an amazing comic duo. Their timing as well. And looking at the film, yes, at this day and age, it would be offensive merely by having the characters not be deaf and blind in real life with acting as those characters. But I feel like for the 80s, late 80s comedy, they handled it pretty well, tell you the truth. I could see where the rewrites were in place, where they tried to make the characters much more realistic than you would expect. There was a lot more depth to it than I would expect from something like that.
And apparently they both studied, like Wilder studied at a school for the deaf and Pryor at a school for the blind. They really kind of get, like they took it seriously.
Like I say, the film didn't come across to me as being blatantly disrespectful at any case. But that's now, again, if you come at it from a point like, well, this film, if it was made today, it would be considered very disrespectful, but it wasn't made today. So that's why I look at it from that 80s lens that for the time I was fairly respectful of the topic, and just to have that kind of representation at all.
And they have a warning on the movie, so
yeah, just that kind of representation at all, though, in film, where you've got not only do you have the representation, but you've got the heroes and the main villain having these disabilities and accomplishing things that the people with all their senses cannot. It's still it can still be looked at as actually not as bad as one might look at it on the surface. Not quite I think it still holds up better than some of the other films, like, say, The Toy with Richard Pryor.
The Toy was much worse. I'll admit, the Toy was much worse.
The 80s.
By worse, you mean great.
I never saw The Toy.
It's really hard. It's good if you've watched it back before all this, but if you look at it now from this lens, it's hard to not.
If you're watching movies, you enjoy the movie, you love it. If you watch it to criticize it, then
But let's go ahead and talk about the plot a bit. So the two main characters are introduced pretty early on, and
that's the best scene ever.
and I'll admit, I was laughing from right out the gate, because that first scene where you have got you introduce Gene Wilder's character, Mr. Lyons, as he is
blocking
traffic because he's staring at the "Don't Walk" sign, and he didn't realize he was off the curb, and people are yelling at him. Of course, he can't hear them. Then he manages to catch the words of one of the insults, so he starts yelling back. And then you see Richard Pryor's character coming out of the subway and thinking that Gene Wilder is yelling at him, so he starts basically getting ready to fight him.
Yeah, yelling at him and calling him names and trying to punch him and stuff. And
which, of course, Richard Pryor can't hear him.
Who are you fighting now? No one's there. Who are you fighting?
So it really is a great introduction to both characters, because you get to see them both right out the gate and what's going on. So what do you all think of these two leads?
Well, I absolutely love them. I mean, like I said, they have the greatest chemistry. They're absolutely hilarious, and like I said, right off the bat, it's just hilarious. And the way Richard Pryor plays the blind guy is like he doesn't want to admit that he's blind. It just makes it funnier, I mean, of course he does know he's blind, but he doesn't want to admit it to himself for whatever reason. It's just it just makes it funny, and Gene Wilder, he anyone else would know that they stepped down from the step and then they stepped back. So he should have known that, but it made it hilarious at any rate. for them to like be fighting with each other, but not really fighting with each other. Because Rich Pryor is really just fighting with nobody, and Gene Wilder is fighting with the truck driver that was aggravated that he was standing in his way.
One of the reasons I think that the two of them work well together is if you look at their comedy styles overall, Wilder is more controlled. He's more tightly wound, you might say. Like, he almost plays the straight man in the role, and Pryor is more
I guess
visibly angry. He does more of the bigger movements, the bigger, like they're both playing the characters with this sort of like underlying kind of anger at their situation in the world, but Pryor is like mouthing off at every opportunity, or I guess I should say Wally is at every opportunity, and Dave's more like it's more like you see it, like is he going to blow? Is he going to? and so the different levels I think complement each other really well. And Pryor does have a couple of fun moments where he kind of goes off, like he's more actively performative, you could say. Like the part where his sister makes a comment about them being black, and he just goes off about it, and it's like, I'm black? Really?
Yeah.
and it's I'm gonna have to tell everyone at the club, It's like
I guess I'm gonna quit swimming and this and that.
And he's obviously putting on a show. He's obviously just doing it to get a rise out of somebody. But I did find that kind of an amusing
he did. He got a rise
sequence.
out of his sister.
That's what he's trying to. That's what he's trying to get.
Exactly.
She was trying to sink into the chair, like, I don't know you, like, get away.
Kind of a precursor to Dave Chappelle's Clayton Bigsby character.
Clayton Bigsby, yes. Yes. A great sketch. Yeah. Well, I mean, Chappelle, he owes a lot to Pryor. I mean, that's just.
Absolutely. I mean, I think he acknowledged him. I mean, he's acknowledged him in the past.
Right.
Oh, yeah. A lot of comedians really owe a lot to Pryor's early work. And of course, to Pryor, Red Fox, really, because Red Fox was one of Pryor's inspirations. And Eddie Murphy, matter of fact. Eddie Murphy was majorly inspired by Red Fox and Pryor, which you did get to see them all together in one movie in particular. Yes, Harlem Nights, where all of them were together, which, if you haven't seen Harlem Nights,
I have not. I need to see that.
It's kind of funny. I never liked Red Fox, but I love them, Eddie Murphy and Richard Pryor. So it's
kind
of weird.
The three legends together, man.
I've seen the movie. Like I said, I don't know. I don't know what it is about Red Fox. I don't know.
Were you trying to say something, Tammy? I thought I heard you.
Yes, I was going to say, you're right about how well they complement each other. It wasn't that long ago that I watched Silver Streak, and the commentary before the movie had said about that Gene Wilder had such a good time working with Richard Pryor on that movie is why they went and did this movie and other ones together, because he had such a good time working with him. And you can see that they do work well together and they complement each other very well.
Right.
Yeah.
I think one of the great scenes that really shows that off is after they've been arrested and they're trying to do the mug shots, and the woman keeps trying to get Dave to like look straight ahead, and while he's communicating the directions to him, and and he keeps turning at the very wrong moment, and she's just getting more and more pissed off.
Yeah, I mean, and keep in mind that Gene Wilder had lost a partner in comedy when Marty Feldman died in '82, and he and Feldman had
Oh, yeah.
amazing comedic timing
Yeah.
together as well. So I was kind of glad to see this is kind of resurgence of a great comedic duo.
And actually, it's getting into those, because I always think of the two of them, I always think Young Frankenstein. So, like, you get into those Mel Brooks ones, there's like, I think Pryor originally was supposed to be in Blazing Saddles, and eventually he had to bow out for some reason, and Cleavon Little took the role. But it makes you wonder what might have been.
That would have been interesting.
Well, he could have been.
They were concerned about Pryor's drink. They were concerned about Pryor's drinking. They were even concerned about Silver Streak.
Yeah.
And they basically gave him a chance on Silver Streak because of his drinking.
Drinking was as bad as his coke.
Well, he'd been starting to try and clean up his act around the time he started working with Wilder, and then eventually became more family friendly before illness pretty much took him out of the game.
Yeah,
which was a sad loss, really, as far as things go. I think we even had that wasn't one of his last roles we had talked
Lost
about.
Highway,
Yeah.
It was kind of debatable if that felt awkward.
It was just more of a cameo, but it was still good to see him, even if it was for one more time.
Yeah, it was nice seeing him, but it definitely
But this is pretty much how I like to remember him, because this is sort of the that individual that was comedic and most people in the family could laugh at.
Yeah.
Not so much for the stand-up. Well, okay, maybe Forrest when he was child, but otherwise.
It's funny. It's like that conversation that was going on earlier about Bob Saget. It's like some of the most not so family friendly comedians are the ones known for their family stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, I never realized he was. Like I said, I saw him in the show and then in America's Funniest Videos, and he's just like a wholesome comedian, like on both, and then I see him in Half Baked, and nothing like crazy in between, and it's like, what did you say?
And if I remember correctly, I think Saget had one of the filthier moments in the Aristocrats documentary.
Well, shoot,
I never saw that, but
people
like I said,
people forget Bill Cosby's early stand-up.
Yeah,
and but that's the thing is, some of them did have that shock stand-up. I mean, that was that early thing.
Well, Eddie Murphy definitely did.
I mean,
Red Fox, like I said, they learned it from somewhere. I mean, yes, Sanford and Son was where you got most people know Red Fox from. But if you've watched any of his stand-up, his stand-up was probably some of the filthiest stand-up I have ever seen.
And I was listening to some classic George Carlin last night, and of course, one of his last roles, two of his last roles before he died were, well, anything Kevin Smith is debatably family friendly, but ours.
Yeah,
I loved him as the priest in Dogma.
So, what about since we have his sister? Of course, we have the character's sister, who is kind of trying to rein him in. He goes in, he spends his last money on the horses. He being Richard Pryor's character, I can never remember that guy, the character's name, Wally. And because they refer to his last name for most of the movie. But it's interesting to see her character. Of course, she's there as kind of a grounding force, which you got to have somewhat of a straight person for
ultimately she becomes the person that they call when they get in trouble, and then also the person that gets kidnapped and then kicks some ass in the end. So.
Right.
But of course, David, our main hero, works at this newsstand, and Richard
he
Pryor
owns
goes
it.
in to get a job there, and they have a funny little back and forth. But essentially, Wally's bookie comes looking for him to pay that money that he owes him, and realizes that some people are after
Oh,
him. So,
you kind of skipped the bar scene.
oh yeah, I forgot they did go and do the so that they could introduce him to Harvey Wallbanger.
Yeah, he wanted to, like
Right.
he was taking him out to celebrate the fact that he was giving him a job when
Yep.
he hadn't even decided he was giving him a job yet or not. So,
I love
But,
the bar scene because it just is so.
oh, it's hilarious.
Yes, he's holding him. He goes, noon,
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock, 1 o'cck, and he's
Is
like,
is this
moving
the
him all
Harvey
around.
Wallbanger that you
I thought
turned
I thought
into?
the bar scene was one of the best scenes.
Oh, it was definitely hilarious.
So it's a screwdriver with Galliano added. Good to know. That should be interesting.
Is that what the Wallbanger is?
Yeah,
I have to order one of those when I'm on the ship.
right.
Harvey Wallbanger. Yeah, that introduces the whole idea of one of them basically being the eyes, and of course Pryor being the fists.
And
Mhm.
one thing I wanted to mention is part of the thing that leads up to this bar scene is the atmosphere of the crummy drivers that are in New York City. I guess is that where this is based? I guess.
Yes.
The come on, get out of the road. Why don't you? You know that. What are you doing, you son of a beat? You know. So you get that. You get.
Of course,
that
you could almost
atmosphere.
hear them coming back with Rats Rizzo. Come on, I'm walking here.
I do want to mention one thing that
Could
we
definitely-
skipped over too. Just you reminding me of that. When Richard Pryor's character comes out and he refuses to have the staff, and then the blind guy goes, "Can you help me across the street?"
Yes.
Oh yes,
Blind leading the
that was
blind.
that was
And
actually
then-
kind of funny. I
And then they
thought
end up walking into a truck.
they were fortunate that they decided to turn around and walk that way.
Well, then his sister's in the car, and he's like, "How am I doing?" And she's going, "Oh, you're doing just fine."
Yeah,
Yeah, because she's just trying to teach him a lesson, I guess. But the other
yeah.
poor blind man, like, what did he do?
I think she might have also been going. No, he didn't really.
Well,
She probably just-
both of them really do try to deny their disabilities. Both of them managed to gain their disabilities later in life. I mean,
Right.
shoot.
Pryor had
Wilder's
MS. for all my
characters.
people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Wilder's character had even told the guy at the beginning, he's like, "There's this vicious rumor going around that I'm deaf," and all this. And he makes a good point of it. And a lot of when he's talking about it, like, and they look at when they hear that I'm deaf, it's like I've got a disease. No one wants to touch you. No one wants to do this.
Right.
And there's a lot of truth to that. There's a lot of that extra fear
Yeah.
there. And like I said, yes, there is a lot of ableism going on here. But as far as the movie for the time, it tries to address it very tastefully. And it works as a piece of people trying to accept who they are and what they have. And that's something that most have to go through. I mean, shoot, look at Sound of Metal as a good example of something like that. It didn't treat it as a comedy, but he was not exactly fully accepting of the situation either
right.
at that beginning. And
I was going to say, just in terms of our recent discussions, this one could be seen in a similar lens to Charlie, and like there's a lot of similarities there where you look back on, you're like, did they make the right choices there? But you get the feeling that at least their hearts were in the right place. This one was just a much broader comedy, so there's more room for potential criticism, I guess.
So, well, we get past the bar scene and all of that. Then we get back to the bookie dropping this particular gold coin out of a cool-looking compartment in the suitcase, and then being taken away by Kevin Spacey and, gosh, what is her name? You know all their names.
Well,
Joan Severance is the actor.
John Severance, sorry.
Eve is the
Eve.
character. Eve and Kergo are the
Kirgo,
characters.
Yeah. Even Kirgo, yeah.
I never knew her name. I don't remember them saying it. That was referred to as the perfume or the or you know, the sexy legs. And
wasn't she in No Holds Barred with Hulk Hogan?
I think so. It's been so many years since I've seen No Holds Barred. Also, one that has some issues.
Because she seems familiar besides this movie as well.
Actually,
so that makes sense.
But she ends up killing him while Gene Wilder's character is reading out a label of a digestive
label, and of course he can't hear, so he doesn't know that something's being shot. And then Wally heard the shot, but he was, he was outside and doing looking for the papers that was in front of him.
So Joan Severance's first movie role apparently was an uncredited role in Lethal Weapon. So that's kind of fun.
Yeah, unfortunately,
I'll have to look that up.
Unfortunately, Richard Pryor's character falls over the dead body, but then, of course, Gene Wilder picks up the gun, which was an unfortunate thing to do.
Yeah, why do people do that? You think people would know better.
I always say that, like, why are they picking up the gun? Like, hello, you don't pick up the gun. I mean, I can almost see it when it's a loved one, because you're in such shock that you're not thinking straight. But when it's somebody you don't know. I mean, yeah, it's sad, but it's, you should be more with your faculties than to pick up the gun.
And it looks slightly incriminating to the police when they see them at that point. And of course now Gene Wilder's fingerprints are all on it. Well, and if you think about it, and as they take them in to be questioned, they have some fun exchanges, but they're right about the mens rea, which Gene Wilder misinterprets quite funnily. But still,
yes, like the captain's all like, "Oh, we can't call them" or whatever, and just like, "Oh, you feel sorry for everybody." He's going, and he's like yelling at the blind man, and because he knows he can't see him, he's blind, and then the deaf guy, and he's like completely ignoring the fact that they're deaf and blind. Like, he's trying to treat them as regular suspects or whatever.
Yeah, we have Alan North as Captain Braddock.
Oh, he does an excellent job as the captain.
He had probably my favorite line in the movie. I can't shoot them?
Yeah.
Why can't I shoot them?
We went through all this to chase them down and find them and get them, and we can't shoot them.
But it is true that they do have an excellent. First off, they had their fingerprints at least Wilder's fingerprints all over the murder weapon.
Yeah,
and they have a very large gambling debt that Richard Pryor's character owes. It's
to the deceased.
Yes, like I say, very incriminating. So I can't. That's one of those that's a fairly logical conclusion for the police to make here. Right. I mean, obviously it was possible that he could have shot him.
Plus, they're both smartasses,
and their story doesn't really make a lot of sense. Like, there's such beautiful legs mixed with I smelled perfume. Heard a gunshot. But the villains do want to bail them out. They come in as their lawyers, saying they'll get them out by the end of the day. but but by their combined senses, mainly Pryor recognizing the perfume, they're
Yeah.
able to figure out, oh, we're in deep crap here.
Well,
Yeah,
and
Gene
Wilder
Wilder
noticed
actually-
the back of her legs as she was
Yeah.
going out the
That's
door.
the
and
woman I
she-
told you about. Oh, now you can explain what she looks like. I'm like, he wasn't looking at her. He turned around and saw her the backside. So I mean, of course, he couldn't tell her much. He didn't see her.
Although this time she wasn't wearing fishnets on her
Yeah.
legs.
Mm-hmm.
But he could still tell those legs. You know what I mean? Those legs are pretty damn nice.
And one could say that doesn't hold up by today's standards. That's one thing they could say.
Fight me.
But it's
Some
but they did manage to come back for the coin because they realized the coin's not in the guy's suitcase, so they track it back to
right.
Well, yeah, that's when we actually see Kevin Spacey's
Oh.
characters in the hotel room.
No, actually, wait. That is one of the more interesting things about it is when they go to arrest them. Of course, they immediately handcuff the guy holding the gun. You know, of course. And he's like, Wally, why don't you get the money out of the change box? And apparently the arresting officer had no problem letting Wally collect the money out of the change box before cuffing him. And it's like, well, I guess that was nice of him, but it seems like kind of lax police work.
I'm gonna say that they make the excuse well because there is that awkwardness because they know both of them have a disability, and I've had the privilege of working with a lot of police officers, and I've seen how many that are not as used to dealing with individuals with disabilities tend to act very awkward around that because they don't know how to deal with it. So yeah, it's actually more realistic than you would think. And that pause and consideration is what helped them escape their situation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that
Well,
I'm sure there was a love about the holding of the water and using it on the crotch of the police captain.
Well, it's funny before that though, how he got his handcuffs off. He's doing that the other cop is supposed to be walking him and doesn't tell him to turn or anything, and he walks right into the thing, and the captain's like, "What are you doing?" Well, come on, you idiot! It's like, he's like, "One cuff him before he destroys the place."
But see, again, that's that them basically underestimating the person. Oh, he's blind. He's obviously can't do anything. You know, that's a underestimation.
Right. I mean, he's like underestimates him and overestimates him all at the same time. You know, it's like, you know, some things he's expecting him to be able to do and he can't do, and then in other ways not expecting him to be able to do anything, and of course they can. So, yeah.
Though they do manage to escape by basically getting the officers into the elevator and pressing the higher floor button as they run out.
As they get out, yeah.
But they unfortunately run basically, for the most part, right into the killers, doing a pretty obvious walk by trying to be inconspicuous.
He's like, don't lead me. They're looking for a blind man and a deaf guy. Just walk loud.
Right out of the Ministry of Funny Walk.
Sounds louder.
I was going to say, you know, that apparently Gene Wilder is a good of the Ministry. Yes.
What's he doing? Oh, he has to go to the bathroom really bad.
So, of course, they speak to their boss about it, and of course, the boss says, "Yes, you've got to kill him." And she gives Gene Wilder's character a kind of a goodbye kiss.
That was a great scene. Would you like anything, Wally, or whatever his last name is? Is a fuck? That's the question.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that wasn't in the TV version.
No, it's definitely
Yeah.
not. No, I mean, when I saw this, definitely it was TV version. So it was great to see the original version. Now with the nudity and the swearing and stuff, because
But I
just made it
guess,
even funnier.
So
if
what
you're
do-
about to die anyway, you could probably afford to be a big horse.
So, what do you think of our? What do y'all think of our duo of villains? You don't really see the big villain until the end. So, what did y'all think of the two that they do?
The English guy, Kevin Spacey's character is just he definitely kind of seemed like a bumbling idiot, and also hungry to kill someone. Like he just wants to shoot somebody and kill people, and she seems to kind of like these guys, and she doesn't really want to kill them, but they were told to, so she go along with it. She seems to be nicer and and then she ends up never trying to kill him, even though she had multiple opportunities. And even to get some revenge, because one of them stuck her off with a direction.
To me, she came across as a femme fatale type,
Right.
sort of like a Fujiko Mine or
Definitely.
something like that. And of course, the other one,
Love
I
Fat
didn't.
Nikita.
He didn't come across to me as bumbling, but more as a person that
Right.
this job was below him, and he
Right.
was just trying to get done with it.
Yeah, they both came across to me as quite calculating. She acted nicer because she calculated that it was in her interest to do so. But I really did see her more as a would-be femme fatale type. But she's not as ruthless as Kurgo is. Kurgo
Right.
is ruthless. I wouldn't call him bumbling either. I would definitely say snooty and full of himself.
Most
And
definitely.
Which gets him shot.
Yeah.
Basically.
Mhm. Yeah,
She is-
well, we were talking
yeah.
before about people over or underestimating other people.
Yeah.
Like, I think he thoroughly underestimates Sutherland and pays
Oh, yeah.
for it,
But that's
Yeah.
and that's the thing. I think that's the message they try to put across is that a lot of that concept is looking at someone with a disability as less than a person when
Right.
really they are very much a person and might surprise you with what they're capable of. Like Richard Pryor driving not long after they get out.
That was the best scene. I mean, there's some great scenes, but to me,
Utilizing the clock.
this is just a scene that I remember more than anything when I just think of this movie is the driving scene. And of course, Gene Wilder's still handcuffed with his hands behind his back, so he can't drive. So, well, he's like, well, I'll drive. Of course, he's blind. And how he managed
Right.
not to really hit any vehicles or people is amazing.
And
Does it
at one
right
point,
from jumps.
at one point, once Wilder gets like his hands in front of him, Pryor says something like, "Well, I'll drive and you work the pedals," or something like that. And I'm like, now, how is that going to be any more advantageous than what you
Right?
And then
He's like climb over and he puts his like
climb
arm
over.
over his neck with the handcuffs there. It's like, how is he gonna move over with you got him like strangled under the handcuffs?
Yeah.
Yeah, and later with the handcuffs, when he was sawing the handcuffs off, did you notice how when they were going away from the car, he also had the wrist cuffs completely off his wrists too. They didn't even show that.
Oh, I didn't even notice that actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, back to the driving scene. He's like, move the seat, move the seat. Yeah, he fires the gun off.
Fires the shotgun.
There goes the door.
Yeah.
What happened? We had this conversation there.
I mean, one of my favorite
But
lines.
the door hit the cab car, which the English guy had stolen chased them, so the door smacked it and knocked him out of the race against them for a minute.
One of my favorite lines on it was where he's saying, it's like, eyes on the road, eyes on the road. It's like, well, if it makes you feel better.
Yeah, that is. I
Yeah.
laughed my ass like, well, it makes me feel better. Eyes on or off the road, it doesn't really matter.
Again, whatever you think of it, the comedic timing between them was very good, especially here.
Oh yeah.
I'm trying to remember. The chase scene was before the motel scene, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
They go to the motel after they get away
Right.
on the garbage barge.
When they call the sister for help, and
where he's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
oh, that's what's going on. I thought that you'd let one go. I was trying to be polite.
all the trash.
No, when you think about it, though, are you really being polite at that point? Especially if you admit that you think that stench could have come from one person.
Oh, I smell some really bad farts, man.
That bad?
I'll be like, what the heck did you eat at that point?
Yeah. I mean, I would have said something, but
Well, what about you, Forrest? I know that the movie wasn't as funny for you. Did you enjoy the car scene?
Yeah, this car scene was actually pretty well done. And
Actually, they finally upgraded car. They upgraded the police cars from.
oh
that
yeah,
time.
no, NYP cars hadn't looked like that in years. But yeah, I thought it was pretty well done. Kind of element. I did like him when they were driving through the meat packing district.
You're hitting cows.
Yeah, I
we're in
was
a
like,
warehouse and we
those,
just hit the cow.
those cows are never going to be eaten ever.
But yeah, NYPD cars are now white, with like blue NYPD logos and lining around it. But as opposed to, back in the 80s and 90s when the cars were blue, when the police cars were blue. So
I remember the police station looked like a donut shop.
when don't they?
I could see them
That's 'cause
doing that on purpose.
Right.
Right.
I mean, and again, this was closer to Times Square, if I remember correctly. It's been a long time, but I remember that they had the neon lights in front of it. It looked like it was a restaurant that they repurposed as a police station.
Here was the scene that was mentioned. We're in a warehouse and you just hit a cow. I think we better back up.
Yeah, I was just saying that.
So how easy would it be to take a garbage barge to Jersey?
Pretty. I mean, maybe not garbage barge, but there are ferries from the city to Jersey. I take.
We're going to Jersey. I got family there. Oh, good for you.
So obviously there's a lot of stuff going to Jersey, good and bad. But they end up in Jersey, and somehow they get the car off of the barge and into a swampy area where it looks like they're just dumping the garbage. And they work to get the handcuffs off. But they do have quite a revealing exchange with each other.
I do like when they're in the car, in the barge, and he's like, "I'm really getting sick of these hundreds of thousands of bags of trash," and he's like, "Really? I thought you had let one go."
Well,
indeed.
And this was a continuation, really, of their first heart-to-heart, where they were eating the ice cream, and Richard Pryor had put the ice cream
going on his head. That's so ridiculous.
Right.
That's great. But then right there is when Richard Pryor's like, I'm sick of this death crap. Can't you hear anything? He's like, what if I yell right straight in your ears? Like, I don't know, I've never tried it. And then he's like, I think I heard something. What'd you hear? I'm freaking deaf. I didn't hear anything.
Yeah.
They're both smart asses too. Is what makes it great.
They both argue, and it looked like they were going to break up, but in reality, they were pretty much tied together, so they weren't going to break up entirely.
It is worth, actually, now that you mention it, is worth revisiting that scene with the ice cream cone, because Wilder had said essentially that his great fear was looking ridiculous. Or Dave said this, that he was afraid of looking ridiculous, and Wilder's like, I can fix that in, what does he say, 10 seconds? He's like, I can fix that in about 10 seconds.
I wish I knew
he just
so I could fix that in 10 seconds.
Puts the cone on his head. And he's like, there. He looks ridiculous.
Yeah, he looked ridiculous.
And well, it's true. It's true. At that point, Dave did look ridiculous.
It was so funny. And
it wasn't as painful as he thought.
The way that they had it does, Wilder was an actor and had caught scarlet fever as an adult, and that took his hearing. And of course, Richard Pryor had gotten hit in the face with a fire hydrant when he got hit with a drunk driver, which some tragic events right there for both, and both of their lives got upended by it. It's
David was actually still acting for a while, but then he stopped missing some cues when the actors would turn around. Like, he never told anyone he was deaf. He just kept working, until got to a point where he felt like he couldn't do it anymore because they were turning around and he couldn't see their lips while he was doing it. So.
But I do think that those types of scenes, that one, the police incident, and the one after, they kind of do put a little bit more of a human nature to it, that they're not just making fun of the disabilities.
It's interesting what he says about his wife when they're having to talk.
Yes.
And, he was describing her all this and that, and he goes, but then one day she was able to sit on a broomstick and and the whole thing goes
and fly away. Hey, I think I've married her. What a coincidence.
Yeah.
But they
it happened just at the same time as I got deaf.
Wilder had caught a little bit of a snatch of the lip reading when Eve was making a phone call, and they knew to go to this motel that they were staying at, and they were able to track down the additional information with the help of the sister, that where they were going to do the exchange, or where they were going, was this fancy place.
Well, she knew it was a resort. They thought they were looking for a person.
Gorgeous Gorge instead of Grace George instead of Grace Gorge.
You said you're an asshole.
Yeah. But of course they meet up with her at that motel, and I love that motel scene where all these cops come rolling up.
I know.
You got this huge
30 fucking cop cars.
It must have been the whole force.
The captain,
and they're sitting there
to get out of the car. He can't even get out of the car.
And they're like, "Come on out." Come on out with your hands up. And like every room is full of people.
She was 18.
It's obvious what that hotel's main clientele was.
I love the old guy comes out with a woman, and then all of a sudden a younger boy comes out with the girl too. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
We had threesome or something.
So but they do end up going to this hotel where there's this doctor convention. So Pryor and Wilder sneak in, pretend to be some of the doctors that have been marked as not showing.
Yeah, Pryor's a Swedish doctor.
Not only a Swedish doctor, but a Swedish gynecologist. Which
we don't know that yet.
Yeah,
He
but
doesn't
they
find out. He doesn't
reveal it
find out until
later.
he's on stage.
So they do their best to mimic a German and Swedish accent.
What's the best exercise for? Well, some like to walk, some like to run, but I like to fuck.
Now, one of the scenes that could be considered as majorly problematic would be when, of course, the sister does distract by running into the villain's car while Wilder goes into the room, ends up confronting, Eve.
Yeah.
So it kind of has her take up both hands where she has to drop the towel, and ends
Well, you
up,
forgot the shower scene right before it. I mean,
yeah.
she opens up the shower, like trying to get to the
Those are
bag
parts
that he was holding.
That's probably a part that was cut a little bit for the rated version.
Oh, I'm definitely sure, but it wasn't cut in the version I saw. So,
Oh no.
got to see her boobs, and she's trying to grab the bag. She grabs the bag, and then she's trying to put it back down, and he ends up grabbing it. But yeah, I love. I mean, she mustn't. She. I mean, she looked like there's no way she could have thought that was an actual gun in his pants.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, when she saw his hands, and she realized afterwards it was an erection, and that was just absolutely hilarious. And it's great when he's telling while he's like, not every day see a beautiful naked woman, and you hold her, you hold her up with your erection, starting to shoot her with your erection.
No.
Okay, I'll admit that part I did find that part funny.
And I mean, he ends up forcing a kiss on her, but I consider that more of a return of what
exactly.
she did to him at the beginning.
Exactly.
Though I could again see people taking a lot of issue with that today. But still, it was interesting to see that he gets the coin. He still was able to leave, but they get the sister because she's still. I think she does a great performance.
Oh, she does. She does. She's like, oh, my husband's insurance adjuster will go crazy if I don't steal a claim, and trying to let me find the card, and she takes all her stuff out of the purse and trying to find it. And then they realize she's stalling them. When he said,
And
he was-
of course, she comes out in her robe, and you can see like she's still naked underneath,
oh yeah,
But
one sexy lady.
And that's when Richard Pryor, who was the lookout, was kind of taken back to speak. But before they could poke holes in his theory too much, he suddenly was struck blind. And Gene Wilder came to save the day.
He's his doctor, and said he was stuck with sudden blindness. It's the thing that happens. And the woman was like, "Oh God, how do you treat it, doctor?"
Well, what's funny is that
as he's shoving him out the door, he's like, "You're completely blind as a bat."
And he's smacking him into the freaking door twice.
You were saying something, Brandon?
Well, the funny thing is that hysterical blindness is actually a psychoanalytic diagnosis in real life. For those few who actually do practice it,
it comes and goes.
But of course,
when he yells pussy, and I was like, "You're cured."
I don't know if you guys realized, but the guy who spoke up and asked him a question is the lead vampire in The Lost Boys later on.
Oh, I did not realize it was him.
So
the lead vampire, huh?
The blood-sucking Brady Bunch.
Love that movie.
But they realize, okay, we're going to have to get here. They managed to find out from the bellboy what's going on about this estate, because that's who they leave the message with. And it's like, yeah, there's a lot of vicious dogs there. And so they decide they're going to stage a rescue. Yeah.
I thought that
That-
one is kind of stupid. Like, you just give them a letter telling them to meet there. Of course, they don't have an invitation.
They decide they're going to storm the castle.
Oh, I do love how they said, they told the bellboy, if we're not back in 30 minutes, call the police, tell them, their names and where they are at. So, they were pretty smart there,
Oh yeah, that was the only way they were going to fully save the day.
Yeah, they needed to prove that they weren't the killers and catch the killers in the act, get the killers and the gold coin and everything. And so, they had a good plan. It worked with some bumps and some luck and just like the rest of the movie.
But Richard Pryor also realizes they realize that this is not a gold coin. That actually the gold is a fake on the outside.
Yeah.
They don't know what it is, but there certainly isn't a gold coin at that point.
Yeah. They don't understand why it's so important.
But they move up to invade, and they come up with the plan. Gene Wilder activating the parking brake by accident, or disengaging it by accident.
That car surf was fucking awesome. That car surf was so awesome.
That was a really nice car for '89 to have voice activated.
Oh yeah.
That was nice.
I had friends who have done car surfing. Now, when they did it, there was actually somebody in the car, driving the car. But yeah, that was, that was such a great scene. And then he eventually the car stops and he goes flying off and gets knocked out, and Richard Pryor is yelling for him and trying to call him, and then I was expecting him to trip over him because it's been a long time since I saw the movie, and I was like, he stepped right around him and then smacked into the car and then fell back on top of him. I cracked up again on that scene.
Well, he did trip over a log.
Yeah, that's right, he did trip over a log. I laughed at that one too.
But their plan was Richard Pryor's character would distract the dogs with a whistle, while Gene Wilder would scale the wall with some logs, and then get to rescuing the girl who is in the greenhouse.
Yeah, the sister.
Unfortunately, even though Wilder's peanut butter as a backup did seem to work on the dog, and the whistling to distract the others, he neglected to realize there was an alarm.
Yeah, he smashed the window when she was trying to tell him there's an alarm, but of course he's deaf, so he can't hear her. And and then he's in there, he's like, shh, as the alarm's going off. She's just looking like, oh.
Yeah.
And then he's like, well, I was going to mention that there's an alarm, but there's two people behind us with guns.
They all get captured because of that. But
she also told him to hit her, hit the girl, the woman, and he wouldn't, and she just got up and smacked her one.
Oh yeah, when she punched out Evie, it was pretty fun. I did like that, and I do want to say I did always find it amusing. I don't know why. I just found it amusing that these killer dogs were so easily bribed by peanut butter. I found that fun.
It's the power of peanut butter on dogs, I tell you.
Yeah, just
dogs
a little bit on their nose and they'll just keep licking it off.
Yep.
Man cannot live on bread alone. He must have peanut butter.
But Pryor and Spacey's character arrive first to the big boss, who you get to figure out as time goes on that he's blind because Spacey...
No, not Wilder's character. Wally character.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry.
It was the two blind
Pryor's character, and that's and they arrive, and the one guy's like Kevin Spacey's character decides to act like Kevin Spacey and be evil. Essentially,
try to renegotiate the price of his price and stuff, and the guy didn't like that, so he quickly shut off the light and shot him. and that's when Richard Pryor's character realized, "Hey, you're blind too."
Yeah, his way of doing it was simply to turn off the lights, which would prompt the other guy to shoot, where he would move his head so it wasn't in the same place, and then he'd know where the guy's location was, so he could shoot him and kill him. Which, of course, yeah, the reveal is that yes, he is blind too, and they have quite the funny.
Yeah, it's absolutely hilarious.
They both have guns, and they're both kind of
Stalking each
moving
other
around.
and trying to get each other, and then trying to shoot each other.
It's funny when they're right in front of each other and they pass each other twice. And they're right in front of each other, pointing the gun at each other. They don't realize they just walked right by each other.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
They need to train better.
So Wilder's character does arrive with Eve and ends all that, and even talks with them. And of course, we learn that the chip is actually a very powerful conductor, like a superconductor.
Yeah.
And you get to, and of course, he's going to share
John Williams.
half of $8 million. $1 million. But
Yeah, Eve doesn't fall for that shit. She's like,
no,
she's like, he's gonna kill me too.
she didn't even indicate that she was pointing the gun at him, and she had it square center mass. So even if he moved his head like he did for the other one, it wouldn't have helped.
Yeah,
And knocks him right through the window.
yeah, it was awesome. Right down the
She
hill.
blew
into
him out
water.
the window.
Yeah, that's a powerful gun.
But it does lead to one final, more showdown. As the police get to arrive, she decides to just leave them locked in because she knows the police would just arrest them.
Yeah, she wants to take the helicopter that the main guy had ordered.
But she neglects to realize that there was a nice exit she created for them to go after her.
Yeah, she's like, I'm gonna lock you guys in. I'm thinking, but you blew a hole in the wall. Like, they can just leave. And it's when I love how she's like, let me give you a jacket. We're gonna swim down. Well, it's not that high. We're just a few feet off the ground. And then they're going down. He's like, you asshole!
Liar!
Just a few feet.
Liar!
And then I love how he's like one bomb or something, and he drops Richard Pryor and runs off the girl, and then he's like 2, and he drops on the pilot.
Oddly enough, the scene with Richard Pryor grabbing her chest as he's trying to subdue her, it reminds me of a Dirty Pair anime where they were talking, and the guy drops in, ends up with his hands on there, and she says the lines like, "What do you think they are, Braille?"
Yeah. Well, I love this. She's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, he grabs the other boob, and he's like, "Well, my Braille teacher said, feel, and then you can see." He's fully aware at that point that he had grabbed. I think the first time it was an accident that he grabbed the boob, but then afterwards he was just like, "Oh well."
Also, one that probably wouldn't have held up as well today, but
probably not. But what's this Netflix?
But they managed to have that. Of course, the bigger guy seems to get over on Gene Wilder, not Gene Simmons.
Gene Simmons.
But Gene Wilder has a knife and he's ready to use it. As the police arrive, unbeknownst to him.
That was another funny scene. Everything he says the guy, the cops end up saying, only Gene Wilder doesn't know they're saying it because he can't hear them.
and comes that line that one of y'all was talking about with when they realize, okay, they're not the killers.
I can't shoot them.
I want to shoot him.
We found the real killers. They're innocent. We have to let them go. I can't. You mean I can't shoot them?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I
kind
thought
of
that cop
fun.
was kind of an asshole and a jackass the whole movie, but that was definitely hilarious.
But they do have a nice little epilogue where you
Right.
can see that they both have more confidence in themselves and are a little bit more willing to accept what's their lots in life.
Yeah.
And it is funny how Wilder thinks he's going to get Pryor first with the ice cream cone, but Pryor hits him again with the ice cream cone on the head. But Wilder gets him back afterwards.
Gets them back, and then they're both sitting there looking ridiculous with ice cream cones upside down on their heads, which was hilarious.
So,
And-
so that's our play-by-play. Does anybody have anything else they want to add about characters or plot?
Not that I know of. I think we've pretty much covered it.
Yeah, we did a good job covering most of it.
Oh, well, why don't we hit special effects? I mean, there was a lot of effects that had to be used to get across things. Like the car chase alone used a lot.
Yeah, that's probably where most of it was from.
But you had a lot of expensive set design. I mean, they had that mansion there. You had the hotel.
Yeah,
You had them going to a garbage barge.
and all the busy streets of New York, and
New York back then wasn't. I'm sure that New York back then was still not cheap to film in.
Those cow carcasses had to have been at least a couple $100 there. Driving
well, that's nothing compared to all the damage they had done with the cars and stuff. So.
Oh. Anybody else on effects or production?
I thought the production was good. I mean, everything seemed right in place where it belonged, and looked good. Had no issues with how anything looked. Definitely looked like it was the late '80s and felt like it.
Well, what about music? Anybody have comments on the music here?
The ending credits song was cool.
All right.
Trying to look up music real quick.
Yeah, I don't remember being blown away by the end song. Let's see.
I was blown away, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Overall, it was mostly good. Who did the score? I need to remember that.
It kind of reminded me of Short Circuit a bit. The score did. They had almost that electronic
score by Stuart Copeland.
Oh, The Police.
Oh, he was born in Virginia. Let's see here. Oh, he did music for Wall Street and some other stuff.
Highlander 2. Oh,
Pecker.
Chainsaw Massacre 2 and Highlander 2.
Ah, nice.
Yeah.
Ah. So,
Okay.
why don't we move on then? Favorite scenes. Well, why don't we again this is your pick, Kroll. So why don't we give you the first honors?
I mean, there are just so many scenes that are absolutely hilarious, but I have to the car chase because, like I said, as soon as I think of this movie, that's the first thing that pops in my mind. Blind guy driving and everything, and just it's so hilarious and ridiculous at the same time. It was just really, really funny. There was, I mean, him holding the girl up with his erection was absolutely hilarious too. I mean, and definitely I have to mention that again, just because it was so ridiculous and great at the same time. First she puts up one arm and kind of looks at him like I'm holding a towel, and then he's like both arms, and finally like fine. I was thinking she's a killer and she's ashamed, like doesn't seem like she would care if she's naked.
Well, she
But
gave him that look like I'm going to kill you later. So
I don't think it was that look to me. That looked kind of looked different to me, but maybe. But yeah, definitely the car scene, and there's so many scenes in the movie that are just hilarious. I laughed my ass off, but that car scene was just so well done. It's so good.
well, what about you, Dave?
I'll have to say the shower scene is one of my favorites. I don't mind seeing her a little bit naked.
She's hot.
And it is a strange moment to be held up by one's penis. So, but and later on with the blind man fighting the blind man, that's just. I've seen him in License to Kill, the British guy with 007. So
Yeah.
remember that, and a few other things. Like I remember him in a show called Harry O. But
He did something more recent. I'm trying to remember what it was.
All right. Well, Jake, it's your turn. What do you think? Favorite scene?
Okay, well, I didn't mean to cut you off, Dave. Were you done?
Yeah, I was pretty much done.
Okay. I will say this is a hard one for me to pick favorites. I think what I remember the most from my initial viewing probably was the first time at the police station when they realized that when they were able to ID the killers, in the shower scene, and then the scene at the end at the big compound at the end. Those were the ones that really stuck out in my mind through the years. But if I had to pick favorite scene, maybe that scene where they were getting the mugshot taken. That was pretty damn funny. I meant to mention earlier when Forrest brought it up, but it is always a delight to see Lauren Tom and to hear her. Of course, she's also the voice of Amy in Futurama, and that and her role on Friends are usually what first pops to mind, and Bad Santa. So yeah, that was kind of fun. She didn't get to do much in the movie. It was just kind of fun seeing her.
A bit raw. Yep.
Yeah. But I think probably the mugshot scene and maybe the scene where Pryor was helping the blind man across the street. I did think that was pretty funny. And the scene at the motel where they're like, come out with your hands up, and all these couples came out. But
yeah, that was an
Gracious,
excessive amount of cops.
yeah. But I do think that, but I'm just thinking like all those people were probably scared shitless. It wasn't even about them.
Wasn't
although
there a guy
it wouldn't have been,
that came out and said, "Hey, she didn't even tell me she was a minor," or some shit like
No,
that.
No, I thought she was 18.
She told me she was 18.
She said she was,
And
yeah.
then she smacked him. Like,
But I do think though at the end of the day,
they're really cracking down on domestic things or something.
Yeah.
I do think at the end of the day, my favorite probably was, why can't I shoot them?
All right. Well, let's talk about let's see, Forrest. Actually, no, wait, Tammy. Let's get to you next.
Okay. I actually like the were they on a bus? I think when he did the whole thing about I'm black, I'm not white,
Oh,
I'm not
yeah,
white,
they're on the
I'm not
train.
white, and he's going
Yeah, that was
on
good.
about I better cancel this. And he made such a
Yeah.
scene. It was just I thought that was funny. And then
That was, yeah.
my other favorite is I like the bar scene. That whole fight scene was just hilarious because he kept 1 o'clock, no, 3 o'clock, no, and he's moving them all
Noon.
around, and he's like, okay, we're moving to the right, now we're moving to the left, now we're moving. So yeah, I couldn't stop laughing for that whole fight scene because I thought that was just great.
And we got to learn what a Harvey Wallbanger is.
Indeed.
Are you Harvey Wallbanger?
So Forrest, what was your favorite scene?
Okay, so I'll admit so the car chase was very well done. Also when Joan Severance catches Gene Wilder in her hotel room, I'll admit that I did find that part funny. Also the scene of again, I mentioned this earlier, but the scene in the restaurant where he's fighting that tourist, mainly because the guy he's fighting was the dad on The Adventures of Pete and Pete, and which he did a couple years after this movie. So it was for me as a huge fan of that show, it was interesting to see him in a role outside of it.
Oh, well, best wishes to Movie Buff One. Yeah, sorry that you missed a lot of the discussion, but if you like what you hear, you can always check out a little bit more. We had fun with it, most definitely. And that's also pretty cool. A new horror film. Can't wait to hear about it. I'm sure it's going to be something special. My favorite scene, there are a lot of good scenes in this, and seeing this as a child, as much as I said that there's things that don't hold up, I still really like this film in many ways. And that first scene at the beginning cracks me up. I mean, the fact that I was able to laugh, and I admit I didn't laugh much at Liar Liar. No offense to that, but this one I laughed on almost immediately. But the scene that always strikes me as funny is when they're pretending to be the doctors, and Pryor is trying to basically answer questions about a gynecology study that this doctor had been doing, and then has to pretend that he's been struck blind with Gene Wilder coming in to save him. Well, that was See No Evil, Hear No Evil. So why don't we go through and talk about what everybody does? And I will start with you, Forrest. What are you about these days?
All right, my name is Forrest Bennett. I'm an independent film producer and actor based in Long Island, New York. I'm a producer on a Friday since Friday the 13th just came and went. Friday the 13th fan film that I was a producer on called We Spent We Spent a Friday the 13th at Camp Crystal Lake. It's up on YouTube. It just dropped. I was a producer on that. Just dropped this past Friday. I was also recently in a music video for a punk rock band called Catbite, which we filmed. That video filmed this past weekend too. And I'm looking, so that should be dropping soon. Along with, and I also appeared in a trauma movie called Bring On the Damned, which is also currently in production. I've always got something going on in the pipeline. And if you want to reach out to me on social media, I'm on Facebook. You can also reach out to me on Instagram under My Name Is Not Gump, where I do comic book pickups, and my YouTube channel, Forrest B. Bennett.
It's always fun when I see an episode come up. To be sure.
And I'm also on another show called Under the Radar, which is based here, which is a public access show based here in New York, where we do movie and TV reviews.
And we've had Randy on the show before. It's just our timing just doesn't work out for him. I'm sure
Yeah.
he'd be here more often. And Kyle talked about a new shark movie by the Polonia brothers, which I'm sure that's going to be fun. I wonder if that's Sharkula. Is that Sharkula? Oh well. But Movie Buff One's channel is also a good channel if you want to check out movies, some out and abouts, and some behind the scenes on some of the independent horror. And of course, Mo, who couldn't be with us, with Retro Cult Cinema. Is that right? Did I get it right this
Retro
time?
Cult Cinema.
I got it right! Yay! With his,
I'm thinking, I'm like, that
things.
doesn't sound right. Is that right?
It's and he's done some more activity with the full moon stuff lately. So, and him and Dave actually had a fairly recent discussion on Robot Wars. I keep wanting to think of it as Robot Jocks because that's my favorite. That's one of my favorite of those films.
And me and him did Dr.
Well,
Mordred
it
the week before.
Yeah.
It is the Diet Coke version of Robot Jocks. So,
Diet Coke better than regular Coke.
So, Mr. Lyons, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my nickname's Crow. I'm disabled, so I don't work, but I watch movies and TV shows, and I read and play games. And I come on this podcast and another one on Sunday. Talk about the movies that we watch, and I love doing it. I always love talking about movies I watch, and it's great because we get to talk about it in depth and relive the movie through other people's eyes. Sometimes it's not always great to relive the movie. Some movies don't want to relive.
Yeah.
But other movies definitely enjoy. It's cool this month because I know everything this month I definitely love because they're my picks.
Wait until next month. We got a lot of interesting films to
I'm scared
to see.
But that's what I love about the show is
oh yeah.
sometimes I don't know if the movie's going to be something I'm going to enjoy or not, but I'm definitely going to give it a chance. And even if I don't enjoy it, I usually find something that I enjoyed about it, usually. But so, there's always something you get out of it. And then the discussion as well can be rather fun for the most part, too. So.
Well, and best wishes to you as well. So, Tammy, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I enjoy going on here, and then like Rose said, I go on another one on Sundays with my fiance David. And right now, no, I'm not working, but I enjoy watching the movies and collecting the movies and talking with everybody and learning different things about them and getting everybody's opinion. It makes it a lot of fun. And now the nice weather's out here out in Wisconsin, I should be taking my car out and having fun. It's a 1972 Grand Prix.
You owe us pictures.
Right.
David can help me with that.
Well, we'll definitely get some pictures for the Father's Day show coming up in June here. Because it's, I guess it's going to be Borchardt's 40th, is it?
Yep,
Oh,
40th year that they've put it on. So it ought to be, it's usually a huge show, and I'm expecting that it might even be bigger because it's their 40th.
All right. Well, I look forward to hearing from that. And thank you very much, Movie Buff One. We're glad to have you watch it. Like I said, hopefully be able to catch a little bit more of the earlier show. I think we had a lot of fun discussing this one and moved at a quicker pace than I thought we were. Speaking of moving at a pace, Jake.
Okay. Well, my name's Jake. I'm a movie fan, collector, viewer, what have you, here in Central Virginia, where I regrettably, lately have not gotten to do near as much viewing as I would like between work and especially the Native Plant Nursery, RVA Homegrown Natives, that I've helped put together, but also a full-time job on top of that, and having to deal with other people's schedules to even get to a TV. But I still make time to watch stuff for this show and for a couple of other ongoing things. Mo's got a Ghibli discussion going on his channel, and we have our anime anti-climax on SeptumSin versus the World, which I think I neglected to mention. I am the co-host on SeptumSin versus the World YouTube channel there, which Brandon will surely be able to tell you more about in a minute. But yeah, so I definitely keep busy, but it's always fun to come on and see what Kroll touched on this earlier. We get a broad selection of movies on this channel, and I certainly have seen some things I would not have seen otherwise.
And you will again in June.
Indeed. But it's good times. So yeah.
Well, so of course, Jake is really covering for his real sinister plot of crossbreeding spiders so that he can produce the friendly yet deadly Spanish Inquisition spider.
No one expects it.
Yeah, which nobody expects. But
did you say spiders?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I'm SeptumSin of SeptumSin versus the World. We love our physical media here. Jake's schedule has made it more awkward for our filming together. But I had foreseen his late schedule and filmed an extra pickup. So he'll be with me for the pickup on Wednesday, even though we didn't have time to film one. So that was a good forethinking. A lot of my time has been on another project that I've been working on, where I am working with some individuals, which I'm not going to reveal yet, but in the near future I will, where we're going to be trying to produce and get a movie released. So I'm learning a lot about creating discs, getting disc art out there. It is a bit overwhelming, but very very educational, so to speak. But I also do have a couple of things coming out, the two Anhedenia project episodes, one this week and next week. So I am getting some of that out. Matter of fact, one I got uploaded right before I started here. So that's going to be a something for the channel. So, Dave, I'll hand this back to you. It's your show, my friend.
Alrighty. My name is David Streggy. I'm one of the founding fathers of Inside Movies Galore. So thank you for taking a ride with us along on this great film journey. We've met some great people along the way, and we're going to have some great discussions moving forward here. But I also moonlight under a different channel called Delusions of Grandeur, where we also podcast under the same name. Where this last, we normally do it on Sundays, but we ended up doing it on Monday. We did a discussion on Sadako versus Kayako, which is fairly fun. And this next week we'll be discussing Mr. Sardonicus, directed by none other William Castle, which, if you haven't checked it out, Inside Movies Galore has discussed that movie back in the day, at least a couple of years ago by now. So it is floating out there if you want to check it out. But I figured this would be a great way to get my group of friends over on that side of things to check out the movie. So, in any case, I also do videos and video pickups and video reviews on the channel. So check some of those out. And as Brandon had said before, I recently was part of Retro Cult Media's Full Moon live discussion on Robot Wars, directed by none other than Albert Band. So check that out. So, and I believe Kroll, we have another movie or movies.
We do.
Next week. Why don't you let us know what movie or movies we're going to be discussing next week?
Well,
you
let's
know?
this time we decided let's go with a musical, and this is actually my favorite. Every song in it I absolutely love. 80s themed, Rock of Ages. Just the name alone is Def Leppard song. So yeah, it definitely sets the stage right there. Just listening to the name of it, and like I said, every song in the movie is well done. It tells a fun story of two young people meeting up and working at this club that has all kinds of great talent coming through there, and just it's a fun show, and I really love it. So hope you all come and join us next week on a discussion with it, and watch the movie as well if you haven't seen it already. It's a great one.
Very interesting, I am sure.
All right.
Oh yeah, and I believe that if you want to check us out next week, definitely check us out every Tuesday. So everyone say good night.
Good night.
Good
Good night,
night.
gentlemen.
Good night.
All right, Jim Bob.